Running a business without tracking your data is literally like sewing your eyelids shut and then sprinting forward, praying to God you don't run into something when you inevitably do. That's exactly what it's like to hit a bottleneck inside of your business when you don't have complete clarity around your data. And it does not matter if you're a closer, a sales manager, an off-runner. By not tracking the essential metrics, you are literally guessing. And there's so many of you guys out there who are literally crossing your fingers, praying to God that everything works out when all of your decisions are being based on feelings instead of facts. And then so many of you wonder why your business isn't where you want it to be when you struggle to even identify the real constraint and bottleneck in your business, let alone how to specifically solve those problems as well. And look, I get it. Most people either don't track their data at all. They just look at their bank account and they're like, hey, if I had made more this month than I did last month and we're doing good. Or they're on the opposite side of the spectrum where they have 17 different spreadsheets doing 27 different cohort analysis simultaneously just to not use any of it. And both of those are wrong. And this video isn't about getting super weird, autistic with data. It is the essentials. These are the specific metrics that literally tell you what's broken, what's working, and where you're quietly bleeding money inside of your business. Now, I personally audited an obscene amount of coaches and agencies, and I've helped generate well over $10 million for them. And I can tell within about 60 seconds of looking at someone's numbers, or more accurately, watching them scramble around across 10 million spreadsheets to just try and piece together some of their data that's probably inaccurate, exactly why their results are inconsistent. It's not the leads, it's not the market, it's that nobody tracks the essential required metrics to truly identify the real bottleneck in someone's business and exactly how to fix it. Now, this video covers exactly what to track, why those metrics matter, and then ultimately how to consistently track that data so that you don't just mean to track it, you actually do it. Now, the next video that I actually make on this is not only going to be how to identify the real bottlenecks inside your business once this tracking is set up properly, but ultimately the real strategies on how to fix the bottlenecks inside of your business. But that video is completely useless to you if you don't first have the tracking dialed in, consistently being filled out and actually accurate. So let's dive into the simplest way to do it consistently, to make sure it's accurate, and to have the proper metrics being tracked. One of the coolest parts about this tracker as well is if you're a closer, and again, if you're an off-runner, you want to give your reps more clarity as to what they need to hit for daily KPIs, weekly KPIs, etc., to be able to hit their goals in commissions and all of that. They can actually use this calculator right here, and I will zoom in for you guys so we get a closer view here. You essentially just set your commission goal, and this tracker, by the way, is more info focused. You can still use this for your agency, but you're definitely gonna want to have a separate tracker to track churn, etc., and how your MRR is stacking. But essentially, all you need to do is put in your commission goal. So let's say I'm trying to make $10,000 as a closer. You're gonna put down your average cash collected per sale, commission percentage that you're getting, and then it's gonna tell you exactly what your cash collected needs to be per month, per week. Same thing with sales needed. After you put in your show up rate and your close rate, you're then going to see exactly how many sales calls that you need to take per month, per week, and then how many book calls need to be on your calendar per month or per week. And this is going to help you later down the road calculate how much outbound do I need to do to actually hit this number so I'm mathematically aligned to hit my commission goal. I can't even tell you how many people I speak with and how many reps. You'd be surprised. If you're a closer or if you're an off-runner, you should ask your reps if they know the math to get to their goals. Like if you want to make 10K a month, 15K, 20K a month, do you know the exact amount of book calls, shown calls, close rate, show rate, everything you need to actually get there? And if you don't, then you're probably either not very serious about your goal, because if this was important enough to you, you would already done the math. But then secondarily, maybe you just didn't know. And I'll give you that one. But now that you do know, it is now your responsibility to continuously and constantly track these numbers and make sure that now that you know the math to get to your goal, now you need to make sure that you're actually staying on track with your inputs, which is the amount of sales calls you're taking, the amount of deals that you're closing, to make sure you're in alignment with the math to actually get to your goals. Just really simple example. If you want to make 10K a month and on average, you're making with this math, $500 commission per sale, you're going to need 20 sales. There's 20 working days typically on average per month, Monday through Friday, if you're working 8 hours a day. And that means that you need to be on average get one sale per day to make $10,000 a month if your average cash collected is $5,000 and you have 10% commission. Do the math for yourself, see how many sales do you need to get per day, and then see, is that math even feasible? And this will tell you two things: that it's doable, which means cool, how can we get there? Or number two, maybe it's not realistic, and either you need to figure out how you can fix the marketing, the sales, or potentially if you've been on that grind, on that loop for trying to fix the marketing and sales and you're a closer, and maybe you feel like the offer that you're on is not the right vehicle to get you to your goals, then again, feel free to hit me up. I work with so many different offer owners that need dialed reps, and we have an insane amount. Now, if you've been on that cycle where your manager is constantly telling you, oh, we just got to fix the marketing, and it's been months and they still haven't fixed it, and you're just on that loop, then feel free to hit me up on Instagram. I will make sure that we connect you with a fire offer that actually has really good marketing, because we work with so many different ones. One of the biggest things that you'll see is after you put in these numbers, it's going to give you your weekly KPIs. So how much you have to collect, how many sales calls need to be taken, and then how many need to be on your calendar. And so here are the essential metrics that you need to be tracking here. So first thing is outbound data. It's broken up into two segments. You're gonna have outbound data, you're gonna have actual sales call data, and then last but not least, I guess 3 sections, you're gonna have everything around upsells and deposits, offers made, etc. And then 4 parts, your total cash collected, contract value, and then it also show your commission as well. So really nice if you're a closer and or offer owner just want something very succinct to track. So the first thing you'll see here is outbound dials. I'm just going to go down here so you can see why they're essential. So outbound dials is crucial because let's say, for example, right here, if you're working 8 hours a day and you're taking 4 sales calls, and you're working 8 hours, and we assume each sales call takes about an hour to do, that means you have 4 hours to do outbound dials. And what you should be doing in the beginning to get a baseline is go set a timer for an hour, do nothing, put your phone on do not disturb, and just call and dial people and see how many dials did you make, how many conversations did you have, how many people just picked up in general, and then how many appointments did you book. And that'll start giving you the math that number one you can fill in right here, but also it's going to tell you a lot of numbers like your pickup rate. It's going to tell you your triage percentage from quality conversation to actually booking a call. And additionally, once you know how many dials that you can technically make for each hour, let's say it was 40 dials an hour, and typically most people can do at least 30 to 50 outbound dials per hour, like bare minimum, then you can make a minimum of 120 dials all the way up to 200 plus dials in 4 hours. If you're not making that many dials and you're only taking 4 calls and you're working 8 hours, this is the fastest way to track. Are you actually maximizing the time that you're spending towards working and maximizing this opportunity? And also, if you're an offer owner, this is going to tell you, again, if your closer is slacking or not, or if they could be doing more. So once you track the dials, you're going to be able to track your pickups and everything in here too, the quality conversations and the book calls like I had mentioned. I'm going to break these down real quick. Pickups are really important. Your pickup rate should be bare minimum 10%, like minimum, especially if you're doing inbound traffic, like people are opting in. If you have good speed to lead, which by the way, if you don't have good speed to lead, go check out our first video. I'll link it down below, but it's essentially extremely important to make sure you're calling your leads within 5 minutes. And your speed to lead will dramatically increase your pickup rate as well. So your pickup rate should be at least 10%. And then your quality conversation rate is going to vary, but this is going to give you a little sneak peek into how qualified your leads actually are. So if you notice that less than half of your pickups are not turning into conversations that are longer than 30 seconds, your opener that you're using is probably fucked up. So that's an area where we're like, oh yeah, like we have to see, okay, so that's like an easy way to identify if your opener needs some tweaking. Or if it's just that general area that needs some help, then you can just go look at those outbound calls that you're doing and either have your sales manager, your offer owner, or whatever, or even yourself, go personally review those calls and see what can you tweak, what can you do differently. And once again, if you're struggling with triaging people and you're not having good quality conversations, go watch my other video that covers exactly what to do for triage scripting. I have SMS templates and email templates you can totally just copy and steal. And then lastly, you're going to be able to see your outbound book calls. Pretty straightforward. It's just how many calls that you're actually booked from the outbound. So what's really cool though is, let's say for this example, you need to have 42 booked sales calls on your calendar to make 2.5K in commissions this week, aka 2.5K in commissions this week, or $25,000 in cash that needs to be collected. Then you're going to be able to see, all right, well, I have 6 calls. Let's say you average 6 calls per day. 6 times 5 is 30. You need to make up 12 sales calls. If you know you got to make up 12 sales calls in 5 days, 12 divided by 5 is technically 2 point something. I'm not a human calculator just yet. You definitely need more than 2. Conservatively, the goal is going to be book 3 outbound calls per day. So with this math, if you make 50 dials and you book 1 appointment, you got to make 150 dials to book 3 appointments. And if you do that consistently, on average, you're booking 3 appointments per day, plus you're considering your marketing is consistent, you're averaging at least 6 book calls per day, you will hit your first KPI, which is the amount of book calls you need. And then you move down from there. Okay, cool. Now, did we have 25 people who showed up? And that's where it affects your show rate. Is your show rate actually consistent with your average? And that's why, again, tracking data is so important, so that you know what your baseline of data actually is, to know if something is dipping below KPI. Now, KPIs are extremely important. The way you actually identify what your KPIs are is you take the last 90 days of data and you look at, what was our show rate, bare minimum? What was our close rate? What was our average cash collected per sale? And then anytime something's fluctuating, if it increases, like you had a really good week or a really bad week, see what numbers actually change. Did your average cash collected per call drop? Did your show rate drop? Did your close rate drop? Or did the inverse happen? Like, what actually shifted? Did you drop the amount of dials that you were making, which caused the amount of appointments you were booking to drop? Like, this is how you really identify first what problems actually being faced inside of your business. And something that really drills home the point on why this is so important, and this is actually a quote from Albert Einstein, which is that if he had an hour to solve a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes identifying it and 5 minutes actually coming up with a solution to solve it. Now, when you have the data, it makes it a lot easier to identify the bottleneck, to then think about strategies and solutions to then fix it. Moving on from here, you're going to have your book calls, and you're going to have no-shows, reschedules, and cancels. These are the main types of no-shows. The reason I don't just have book calls and then no-shows is because, again, there are different types of no-shows. So we're going to implement a different strategy based on what type of no-show is occurring. So if you are getting majority no-shows, it's like, all right, why are so many people not showing up to calls? Is it that they don't find value to showing up? Because, for example, in a hypothetical situation, if you told them, hey, if you show up to this call, I'm going to give you $10,000, they would fucking show up, because there's a lot of value to them showing up to the call in the first place. If a lot of people are having to reschedule, I know it's an extreme example, but that really helps to depict, like, if there is not enough value to someone to show up to a call, a lot of times they're going to no-show. Another thing that happens before too that I've seen, people are just scared of getting sold to. So there could be too much pressure that you're putting on the call that's causing people to not want to show up. Or if someone's rescheduling, it could potentially be that you're not confirming if that time is actually still good for them and working for them properly. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can see we can implement different strategies based on what's happening. If they're canceling, if they're rescheduling, if they're no-showing. And then as we move down the totem pole here, you're going to have taken sales calls, like actual ones where you take the sales call, obviously, and then you're going to have a certain amount of offers that you actually make though. And the reason that this is so important to track is because your offer rate needs to be at least, ideally, 70% or higher. If you're not offering more than 70% of people, you need to figure out, why am I offering so little amount of sales calls that I'm actually taking? That is another key metric that'll help you identify what the main bottleneck is. You're gonna have deposits, which are straightforward. Just if you take a small deposit for them to then make the rest of the payment. So you just schedule a follow-up call. You're going to have sales from a one call close and then sales from follow-up closes. And you want to segment those to see where are you lacking the most. And you actually see over here too, which is pretty cool, is a pie chart that shows you what percentage of your calls are one call versus follow-up versus upsells. And this is going to show you where you're lacking. If like 90% of your sales are just from one call closes, you're probably not doing a very great job at upselling people and doing follow-ups. So again, all this is like vital to see so many areas where you can improve. You'll see you're going to have how many upsell conversations you take in, upsells that you've actually made in general, and then it'll calculate into total sales here. And then you'll have your contract value, which is just revenue. So like, for example, if you sell an info offer, let's say it's a 10K thing and you sell someone on a split pay, then you'll put cash collected 5K and then you'll put contract value 10,000, and then that'll auto calculate your average cash collected per sale, which I'll show you all these formulas and how they work too. But essentially it takes all this data that you manually put in and then attributes it into a bunch of formulas automatically, so you guys can see all of your metrics, that then totals it up here as well. And the reason this is important is because, again, it is another big factor. As you can see, we put into this calculator to reverse engineer how much money you want to be able to make. And then that'll also auto calculate into your commission percentage. If you have a higher commission percentage, you can literally just edit it right here, add in whatever number, but it'll total up everything there as well. And if you are an agency owner, you can put your average contract value you sell them for. So let's say you sold someone on $10,000 up front and you expect to service them over a 3-month period. You would put down $10,000 collected and then $30,000 for the contract value. So let's go over these metrics. Like I was saying, the first thing it goes over is your pickup rate, and then it goes over your triage to sales call pass through percentage, which is like out of all the quality conversations you have, what percentage of people are you actually booking? And like I said, if this is less than 50%, that is something that you want to look at in terms of reviewing the calls and actually seeing what's going on. And then your show up rate is straightforward. There is a sit rate. This is one of the most important metrics you can track inside of your business, which basically shows how efficiently is your closer being utilized. So I see this all the time. This is one of the most common bottlenecks in people's businesses, is that their closers are simply not taking enough sales calls. What I'll see is that someone could have a 20% slot utilization rate. Like someone could work 8 hours a day. And then on average, when you do the math, you take however many taken sales calls you had and you divide that by 20 for the amount of working days. A lot of times it's maybe like 2 or 3. So if you're only taking 2 calls out of an 8-hour day, 2 divided by 8 is a fourth, which is 25%. 25% of your day is only actually being utilized taking sales calls. So the other 75%, you're not on a call with the potential to make money for you and your company. This metric should be ideally 70% is the golden area you want to be at. If you have 70% slot utilization, let's say it was 75%, just to round up for easy math, on 8 book calls, that means you're taking 6 book calls. And what does that mean? If you go from taking 2 calls a day to 6 calls a day, then mathematically, if everything else stays the same, your show rate, close rate, offer rate, you will literally triple the amount of deals you get, the amount of cash you're collecting, the amount of money that you're going to make. So that's a really important metric to keep track of. And then you have your offer rate, which is a very important metric. And then you have your 1-call close rate, follow-up close rate, upsell close rate, which again is just out of upsell conversations you took, how many did you close? Follow-up close rate, out of the people that you close in general, how many come from follow-up versus 1-call closes? And then what is your total closing rate, which just combines your follow-up close rate and your 1-call close rate? And then what is your cash collected rate, which again just takes this percentage here. And then what is your average contract value per sale? And what is your average cash collected per sale? It's also one of the easiest ways to calculate your real ROAS. So if you take your cost per call, let's say it was $300, and let's say your average cash collected per sale was $3,600, then you would have a 12x ROAS. And then we go over your 1-call close rate, your follow-up close rate, which is just what percentage of all your sales are 1-call versus follow-up. I covered earlier. What's your upsell close rate, which is out of all the conversations you have about upselling someone, how many do you actually convert? What is your total closing close rate, which combines these two numbers here between your 1-call close and your follow-up close? And then your cash collection rate, contract value per sale, and then cash collected per sale. All these are extremely valuable to know to, again, reverse engineer how much money do you want to make, and then how many calls do you need to take, and how many do you need to close, etc. So now that you know all of the advanced statistics that'll be automatically tracked through your day-to-day statistics, and again, these are the non-negotiable essential metrics that need to be tracked every single day to have a fully robust understanding of your sales team and where things are at. Now, the next most important piece is the objections that you're getting. And the reason this is so important is for 2 main parts. Number 1, you're going to know the most efficient way to train yourself, or if you're an owner, to train your reps. And the easiest way you can think about this is, let's say you're getting a ton of fear money objections. And I'll break down the 2 different types of objections and the nuances in between. But let's say you get, out of 10 objections and 10 calls, you're getting 8 of them as money fear objections. It makes way more sense to train and focus on handling that objection than it does to handle the 2 times that you got a value objection. Because strategy is allocating the finite resources you have in the most effective way to get the greatest output. And what that means in simple terms is you need to be able to focus your time on the things that actually make the biggest change in the amount of money that you're making. In that case, if you were to focus on how to handle a value objection when statistically speaking, you're getting a fear money objection the most, it makes no sense to do that because you're going to get a greater likelihood of converting more deals when you focus on a fear money objection. That's how you always want to think about strategies. What am I statistically getting the most? What is statistically the biggest bottleneck? And then now that we know what's wrong with that, we didn't learn how to fix it. So I'm going to break down these objections real quick too. And by the way, when you put in these numbers, you're also getting another pie chart over here that breaks down in percentages what objections you're getting the most, and then totals of all the monthly data as well for all this stuff. But essentially, objectionless sales are super straightforward. So you get a sale, no objections, you're the GOAT of sales, right? If you don't know how to handle objections before you drop price and even talk about what you do, then links down below. And the next objection here is if you hung up before a pitch, that just means that you were not able to actually drop price on a call. That is where you put up and track here if they hung up before the actual pitch itself, because that's really important, because maybe a lot of people are hanging up on you before the pitch, like you're pissing people off, or your calls are going way too long and you literally don't have enough time to like drop price, etc. And so again, all of these metrics are literally leading to a main problem in your business. And I'm sure you can start to infer what could be happening and how you can start to identify these problems. Now, the main two objections, the two different types, is logistical and fear. Logistical just means that they literally could not do it even if they wanted to. So logistical money, if you sell something that's 10K and you have a payment plan, your lowest payment plan is $2,000 and their credit score is absolute dog shit, then logistically speaking, they cannot afford what your service offering is. So that is a logistical money objection. If it is a logistical partner objection, that's typically more common in a B2B setting where they literally cannot make a decision to invest because they have a 50-50 partner and they're pulling from their business checking account and it's literally in their operating agreement that they cannot make buying decisions at that amount. That is a very logistical objection that you're not going to be able to objection handle because it would potentially end their partnership and break their agreement, which is not something you should be doing, especially when it comes to ethical selling. But fear is when they have the money, they see the value, but they're just kind of hesitant behind actually investing. Fear partner is again where they have the money to see the value, but they're using their partner as the excuse as to why they can't move forward, even though the real concern is that they're just uncertain. And so if you want to know exactly how to identify what that is, it's really simple. You're literally just going to clarify logistics first and then value. After you clarify those two things, the golden question you can always ask is either if you knew you couldn't fail, would you do it? And they will say yes. I personally like to say, if hypothetically speaking, humor me for a second, if you knew for a fact us working together was guaranteed to get you the results you're looking for, would we be working together right now? And if they say yes, then you can literally say, okay, cool. Was it safe to, or is it fair to say you're just looking for a little bit more certainty? You can be real with me. And they're like, yeah, of course. Like I'm always looking for more certainty. Then it literally gets them to admit that they're fearful. And then you can handle that fear objection with the proper reframes. And I'm not going to go into it because it's take too long to go through. But if you want to see how to handle those reframes in a way that is not super cheesy and is exactly how you can still help people overcome fear, even when they're the most sophisticated buyers, go check it out in the description. Now, the last piece is if you get a fear think about objection. So this is when they have the money, they see the value, but they're telling you they got to think about it. And sometimes you won't even get to clarify if they have the money. They're literally just telling you, I got to think about it. I got to think about it. I got to think about it. And when you're getting a think about it objection a lot, what that means, it tells me like if you got 8 objections out of 10 where I need to think about it and it was fear, then I know you're not clarifying properly what the real objection is, because think about it is not even a real objection at all. Like it's not even close. It doesn't even start to help us understand what their real concern is. That just tells me you're not clarifying the real objection you're facing. Now, these last objections here for time and value, time is literally just if they cannot allocate the time on their side that's required on their end. If they tell you right now is not the right time, that is more of a think about it objection than anything. It's not like a real concern. Like you need to clarify into that, because what do they mean by right now is not the right time? Is it actually because they don't have the money? And then, well, what do you know? It's actually a logistical money objection, or maybe it's fear, because when you clarify more, they're like, yeah, I do have the money, but now's not the right time. That doesn't make any sense if hypothetically them working with you is guaranteed to work out. It's always the best time if they know results are guaranteed, which means they're looking for a bit more certainty, which would be money, fear. So as you can see, that's why it's so important to clarify and probe into this stuff, so you're getting accurate data. Now, value is if they literally tell you like they don't see the value in what you do. Like the investment for the deliverables they're getting, they literally tell you that they don't see the value in it, or they feel like what you're offering is literally not worth it. That should rarely happen, but if it ever does, then that's where you can start tweaking your offer, your positioning, or how your rep is actually presenting the offer itself. Then you can track here, out of the objections you get, how many of them do you actually overcome? So then you can literally track, okay, I'm getting a bunch of partner objections and I'm actually overcoming 60% of them. So that's how we're going to be able to see how good over time are you getting at actually overcoming the objections that are being presented to you. So super straightforward. These are, like I said, are the essentials for everything you need to do. This last little aspect here too, by the way, is your weekly focus. So essentially you can literally write down in this box, like what is the one variable you're going to change. So let's say your show rate is terrible. And one of the things you're going to do is speed to lead. You literally want to put at the top here, speed to lead in all caps and bold, everything. So that every time they go to track their data, they're constantly reminded, oh yeah, I need to focus on speed to lead. That is the whole breakdown of the most important metrics that you need to be tracking in your business. If you're not tracking these, that is an issue. Go track them. And then your advanced statistics that auto-populate here, and then the objections that you would get, and then how you're overcoming them. Like I said, if you want this tracker, just hit me up on Instagram. I'll share it over to you for totally free. Now, as promised, I'm going to cover exactly how to fill this out consistently and get your team to fill it out consistently, and the proper systems to implement. And they're really simple. First thing we're going to do is just a blank calendar. You're going to make a event for the same day. If you guys don't know this, you can literally create an event right at the top that's for the entire day. And most importantly, make sure it is marked as free. If you mark this as busy and you have your calendar synced up to your scheduling software, no one will be able to book a call. So make sure it's free first and foremost. And then go to your description and you're literally going to tell yourself to fill out your data. That is how you want to fill it out, where it just says literally fill out your data with all metrics plus objections. You're going to have also, as an added benefit, listen to music while you do it. If you guys enjoy music, which I assume most of you guys do, then listen to music while you do it. It's going to make it so much more enjoyable. One of the things I used to do when I was selling insurance, I'd have to make 400 dials a day, every day, on Saturdays too. And it was very grueling. But when I knew my script like the back of my hand, I knew to handle objections like the back of my hand, I also listened to music. I'm sure you guys have seen Giuliano Massarelli. It makes it way more entertaining and fun to actually dial and do these things. And doing boring tasks, whenever you add music to it, it just makes it so much more enjoyable and entertaining. Make filling out data easier for yourself by doing this. And then one other thing you can do as well is when you have the tracker, by hitting me up on Instagram, you can also link it right here so that every day, whenever you come in, you'll literally just be able to click on this where it says data. I like to mark it all in red too. And then you can literally click on the link and it'll auto bring you to the actual spreadsheet itself. That's going to be the simplest and most effective day. And then make sure it is for every single day of the week. So you can just repeat it every weekday, Monday to Friday. You hit save. Super straightforward. Another thing you can do as well, that's easy for tracking objections. Obviously, you or your sales reps are going to be taking a lot of calls every day. If they're taking 1 billion calls 8 hours a day, they're going to have 8 different call slots. Put a bunch of spam stuff. So I'm just going to show you half a calendar to make it super easy. By the way, if you're not already doing this, you should be adding labels to your calls. You can make stuff like this. So you could have like confirmed. You could have the same thing, but it says unconfirmed. You could have stuff for no shows. Like you should be color coding your calendar. But let's say you have this call, right? And I'll just use this last one here. Let's say this person gives you a money fear objection and you don't have time to make a mental note of it or go keep track of it in your tracker at this moment. Easiest thing you can do, this literally, you can time this, it takes like 30 seconds. You just highlight it, block, you write their name. His name was Dale. And then you just write the objection they gave you. But you can literally make it like this, where you're like Dale, their name, hyphen, money fear, had the money, objection handled like crazy. Or you could say had the money, didn't even push for the objection. Just be real with yourself, like so that you can make a mental note of what you need to improve upon. And then right here as well, when you go to the end of your day, you save that, right? You're just gonna be able to go through and you're like, oh yeah, Dale, money fear. Okay, this other call right here, that was also money fear. All right, so this is what it's gonna look like. You're gonna literally have it set up like this, where it's just going to say name, money, fear, had the money, objection like crazy, etc. Once you have that, you're going to start seeing these notes piling up. So you're going to have another show right there. And then this guy no showed, this guy showed up, and then he also gave me money, fear. Then when that happens, you're going to take that data and you're like, cool, I got 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2 money, fear objections. And then you're just going to go over back to your spreadsheet and then plug in, oh yeah, I got 2 money, fear objections. So this is the simplest way to consistently track your data. You're making a calendar event after each call on like what the hell happened, so you don't constantly have to rely on your memory. Because if you're relying on your memory and you're taking a shit ton of calls every day, you might not remember the conversation. Then you have to go through your Fathom, check the recording and see what actually happened, etc. Like when you just get off the call, you can always take 30 seconds to just put that in real quick, so you're having accurate data. Obviously, since this is highlighted for you every day, you are way more likely to fill out your metrics and enjoy it because you're listening to music and your favorite songs while you're tracking your data. And it feels even better when you are closing a lot of deals and collecting a shit ton of money, because now you get to jam and fill out your data, showing yourself how much more fucking money you're making and how good you're doing when it comes to being on track to hitting your ultimate goals. If this was super helpful to you, feel free to drop a like, subscribe. There's always tons of value coming from this channel and me dropping new videos every single week. Like I said, if you want a copy of this tracker, hit me up on Instagram. I will shoot you a personal copy so you have access to it, all that good stuff, completely for free. And then also, if you want to check out the other sauce I have down below that I have mentioned during this call that goes over how to handle every single objection, the best process to utilize, whether you're B2B or B2C, to pre-handle every single objection, those are all linked down below. And always remember, all this information, everything you learn from anyone without implementation means nothing. And don't be the guy who doesn't implement this very, very important information. And once you do implement it, let me know how it goes and let me know in the comments what you think.